That's Scotty and I'm Motty, and this is Scotty and Motty, and we're live. We're doing a live to talk about that there England, because me and Scotty are massive England fans, aren't we, bro?
Huge. I'm a massive fan of the two Lions. big fan. Yeah, I thought this was a good idea before kickoff at like 5:15. I said, should we do a late show after the England game? And then I'm not too sure anymore.
Well, the thing is, right, with us in England, it's weird one, isn't it? Get involved in the chat in the comments. Come on, people, let's do this together, right? We thought we'll do a short one because I'm an England fan. I want England to win. I'm not a massive England fan. Nowhere near care about what Gareth Southgate's team do as I do about Manchester United. And the main reason I was watching tonight is because I was hoping to see a little bit of Kobbie Mainoo, and we didn't see any of him, which was really frustrating, especially when Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I thought was pretty poor against Serbia, got another game. And then to exacerbate, after 55 minutes, he took him off and then brought on Conor Gallagher. And I thought, well, why are you taking off Trent Alexander-Arnold and not bringing on the guy that can fit into that role perfectly in Kobbie Mainoo? Conor Gallagher comes on, he runs around a lot, he gets himself booked, he gives the ball away a little bit, he does okay, doesn't do that well. I'm being kind saying he does okay. I thought he was poor. And then he makes a load of other changes as well. He brings on Eze, he brings on Jared Bowen. I get these are different types of subs. Ollie Watkins comes on. These are all more attacking subs. But I just thought it was absolutely criminal that we're 2 games into this campaign and we've seen 5 minutes of Mainoo. I think that's a nonsense. He has to start for England for me. He easily is that the missing link in that midfield. And what added it sort of insult to injury was after the game, Gareth Southgate comes out with sort of, I'm paraphrasing, but he says we've not adequately replaced, or we've not found a replacement, for Kalvin Phillips. Words to that effect, which I just think is nonsense, because Kobbie Mainoo is twice the player Kalvin Phillips ever was.
And it's not like Kalvin Phillips has gone missing in Germany. It's not like he's gone AWOL from the England squad and like, oh shit, where's Kalvin Phillips gone? And it's like, he's not played for the best part of a year. And I think the last time he played about 6 minutes. So it's not like, even if there's any logic to missing Kalvin Phillips, you've had ample time to try and find the so-called replacement. But obviously, like it is, it's there in Kobbie Mainoo, who is a far better player at the age of 19 to play that position. I thought it was ludicrous to stay with the same starting 11 that he started with against Serbia, because there was nothing in that game at all to indicate that it was going to work a second time if it didn't work the first. If you look at the first game against Serbia, they went 1-0 up, and then they just went deeper and deeper and deeper into themselves, and we're lucky towards the end of the game not to get a draw. Same thing happens there against Denmark, and Denmark did equalise. They were probably the better team in the second half. Them results were exactly the same as the fight in the final against Italy. They go 1-0 up and then they just retreat within themselves. That's a manager's trait. When you've seen it 3 games on the bounce in big games in the international tournaments, that's because the manager is shit at his job. And that's pretty much it. And then the comments about Kalvin Phillips, it's just idiocy. It just really, really is. And you've seen Kyle Walker get interviewed after the game, and I think he was trying to defend his manager somewhat, saying he doesn't tell us to drop deep after they've scored. But Harry Kane, I think, was a little bit more honest in what he was saying, and it took on the chin that they are starting to drop deep. But Harry Kane doesn't have the legs that he used to have. You've got players there that can whip the ball into the box. Why are you not using them? Foden's played out of position for England. It's just, I don't want to have sympathy for anybody associated with Liverpool Football Club. I do not want to do that, but you have to have sympathy with Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's put in the centre of midfield and it's not his position. And I hate to say that, because if it was a United player that was in that position, I don't know, say, it's like if he put Aaron Wan-Bissaka in centre mid. Do you know what I mean? And then he was getting pelters left, right, and centre. It's not his fault that he can't play centre mid. It's that the manager is too much of a shithouse to play players in their positions. It's just absurd. And we were talking on the live the other day about international managers getting sacked in the during a tournament, and I'd never see the FA doing that to Southgate. But they'll go through the group. They pretty much have done at the moment. They'll get an easy tie the next round. But as they've done in previous tournaments, they'll get knocked out when they have to face a team where it takes a little bit of managerial nous to win the game, because it's harder to make England look shit with that talent than it is to make them look good. It really is.
No, I completely agree. I think you look at some of the players that England have got, Kane, Bellingham, Foden, Walker, I think, are amongst the best. Amongst the best, I'm not saying they are the best, but amongst the best in their position in Europe. They're all up there. And you've got one or two others who are very, very good. Declan Rice is a very good player. I'd say that John Stones is a very good player as well. There's certainly enough of a team there to be playing better football than we are. And also, like you just said there, Scotty, we're still in this position where it's like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's been in a job now for what? Is it 7 years since the 2018 World Cup? So a bit more than 7 years, perhaps. Or about 7 years, 6 or 7 years, sorry. And it's like he's still working out what to do. He's still experimenting. He's still trying these new things. And I get with international football, things change because new players come along. It's not like you have to sign someone. It's not like you go out and go, I want him, get me him. A player comes along and you might go, crikey, right, all right, I've got an absolute superstar here. I need to get him into this team. I've got to change something. Or, you know, you might lose a player or whatever because the club form's just deserted him, as in the case of with Marcus Rashford, or with injuries with Harry Maguire. But players like Phil Foden, for example, he's had him for years now. This is his third tournament. And I thought Foden did okay today, to be fair. I thought it was one of his better games. But it's like he's still trying to work out the best way to fit Phil Foden in with Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham, again, it's not his first tournament. I think it's his second tournament, maybe.
Yep.
Certainly his second. It might even be his third. I'm not sure, but he's been around for a little while now. So it's like he's still trying to find out a way to get Bellingham and Foden into the team. How do you use Harry Kane? What's the sort of system that we're playing here? It just seems like a bit of a mess. Is Declan Rice a 6? Is he an 8? If he is going to be a 6, does he need protection like he gets for Arsenal, where he's got someone like Thomas Partey or Jorginho alongside him? What do you do there? It's just a mess. It just seems all messy. I want to get into some of the comments before I come back to you, Scotty, because there's loads of people in the chat, and I appreciate that they've waited a long time for us, because that's my fault. People saying, how have you taken so long to get your camera set up? I was doing a pre-recorded podcast for Straight News, and it went on and on and on a little bit longer than I expected. Word of advice: if you want to do a quick podcast, don't do it with two Irish lads after a disappointing England performance, because it'll go on forever. Because they didn't even watch the game, but they were more than happy to talk about it. And we spoke about United. That'll be up soon. But now talk about Scotty and Motty, not Straight News. Loads of people in the chat and the comments. Santa Notch, thank you for pointing out that I had the Paddock logo in, by the way. I've changed that. Yeah, that's me rushing. Harry says, there's only one Scotty and Motty. There's only one Scotty and Marty. Oh, there's only one Scotty and Motty. Love that. What version of Manscaped should I buy, Jay? Says Buzz Ajax. Well, they're not sponsoring this podcast. If they want to, they can do. But until they do, I'm not going to tell you anything about Manscaped unless they're sponsoring it, because we are professionals. Destino Portugal says Rasmus was the only reason to tune in. Bit harsh on Christian Eriksen, but I get your point. I thought Højlund did what he does for United a lot of the time, ran himself into the ground. But I thought he did a decent job without getting a goal, but I thought he did okay. And I thought the same with Eriksen. I thought Eriksen did quite well as well. Uncle Ruckus says, no, Cold Palmer is mad. And then he goes on to say, no, Palmer is mad. Yeah. You think it's a weird one with Palmer. And I know I'm pro Mainoo, and I'm all like, you've got to get Mainoo in the team. But I see where Mainoo fits in straight away. I go, take Trent out, Trent Alexander-Arnold out, and put Mainoo in. Mainoo's a better midfielder than Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's a better midfielder than Conor Gallagher. And he'll get the best out of players like Foden and Declan Rice as well. With Cole Palmer, there's more of a question of how do you fit him in? Who do you drop for him? That's a bit more of a conundrum.
It feels like Bellingham might be the one to have to sort of make way for Palmer's position.
And that is a big gamble, because whilst Cole Palmer's had a very good season, he's not got anywhere near the experience that Jude Bellingham has. And also, Jude Bellingham's had a phenomenal season as well. Won the Champions League, scored a load of goals. He's a good contender for the Ballon d'Or. So if you were to drop Jude Bellingham for Cole Palmer, I think people look at you and go, you've lost the plot a bit. And that's no disrespect to Cole Palmer. I think you're taking out one of your key players and taking a punt on someone who's had his first proper season in the Premier League. I know he played in the Premier League under City, but his first full season is that a gamble that you can take, or would you take that gamble if you're
I
Gareth
would
Southgate? Would you get Palmer into this team?
For me, what I do, I mean, it's worth a risk now, is that I think Bellingham pushing up too far is probably having an effect on Harry Kane. So I'd push Declan Rice and Bellingham into the mid if he isn't going to play Mainoo, and then play either Foden behind the striker or Cole Palmer myself. I think Bellingham's better when he drops deeper. I don't think Bellingham's been amazing. He certainly wasn't tonight. I know we got the goal, and he has all the sort of charisma and characteristics of a leader. But I still think he just seems to be tripping on each other's toes a hell of a lot. When you look at how congested, especially when they're dropping deep, there's no space at all. And like I said, I think Foden had one of his better games, and it's when Foden sort of felt like the shackles were off when he hit the post. You know, that was like,
he at least got on the ball, didn't he?
Foden. Yeah,
he got on the ball and he tried things. I don't mind attackers when they try things and it doesn't quite come off. I get annoyed when they're not trying things or they're not even getting on the ball, especially when they've got the quality of Phil Foden. I get your point about Bellingham. I thought he did well actually in Serbia. I thought he was one of our better players, and being brutally honest. But it seems to be that when he had a good game, Foden had a bad one. Tonight, he had a better game. He had a bad game. Foden had a good one. It's like one of them is the dominant force in that area. And that against Serbia, it was Bellingham who obviously got a goal and had a pretty good game. Against Denmark, Foden was better out of the two. And then you've got Kane dropping deep, like you said, who seems to be, it's like they showed you the graphic and it was like you could throw a blanket over Kane, Bellingham and Foden at times. They were that close together. And then you've got Saka, who's just on his own on the right, who in the first game I thought he did quite well. Tonight he was quiet. And it's just a bit of a mishmash. It doesn't really work. And we actually looked better as a team when Ollie Watkins came on. When Ollie Watkins came on, he was running in behind. He was making those runs. I think Bellingham fired a couple of balls into him that he got on the end of. Okay, he didn't get a goal, and England didn't score, but looked to be more of a plan rather than that first goal. Basically, came around because the kid for I think it's Christensen for Denmark makes the mistake, not realizing that Kyle Walker's closing him down. Walker obviously does well. A little bit of luck getting the ball, and he bounces off 3 players before it falls to Harry Kane, and we get the goal through that. And it wasn't like, it was the tactics and there was, a pattern of play that you could see. It was one of those where it was just sort of from Kyle Walker's efforts that we got that one. But then, after that, and obviously Denmark's equaliser comes from a mistake and also a great big hole in midfield. There's no one closing him down. Yes, it's a great finish, and I don't really blame Jordan Pickford from it, even though it's from afar, because it off the inside of the post, hit with pace, it's always going to be hard to save. But I goes back to it, and I'm going to keep saying it. I think if someone like Kobbie's in there, I think he's just, you're keeping hold of the ball more, so you're maybe not giving it away like you were. And also, he's going to be closing down players more, and he's going to give Declan Rice that bit of help that he needs as well. Because at the minute, you've just got, it feels like you've got, even Harry Kane felt like a number 10 at times. It feels like you've got 3 number 10s.
Yeah. Is there an argument, do you think, is there an argument to dropping Harry Kane, do you think, given that how better we seemed to perform when Ollie Watkins came in? Because that seemed to be more in line. We were talking about this the other night. Like, this might be the last sort of chance with Kane, and given his goal record of England actually getting success in an international tournament. I don't think England are going to get anywhere near winning this one. But for progressive football and stuff, number 9s are a little bit of a dying breed. I thought Højlund was, well, like you said, similar to how he has been at United, and I don't think he was great. But Ollie Watkins, the sort of press was a hell of a lot more there. He was running in behind the back and was causing them problems pretty much immediately as soon as he came on. You could see that the Danish centre-backs had to wake up. For the majority of the game, we're just like, all right, we'll let Harry Kane, I know he's going to run 3 yards forward and then 3 yards back and then 3 yards forward. Do you know what I mean? And it's such predictable football, but where Ollie Watkins, with the sort of verve and, energy of youth, was offering a lot more threats.
No, you're right. Wayne Ramsey makes a point here. It might sound controversial, but England maybe need to settle like United did in the FA Cup final. False 9 and drop Kane. Can only see how it plays out. It's not a bad shout, that. No. Look at the quality you've got to do that with. You could have, Foden or someone as a false 9. I don't watch a lot of Manchester City. I don't know if that's something he can do. I presume he can. I think a player of that quality probably could. But going back to your Ollie Watkins point, Scotty, it reminds me of the old Ralph Rangnick saying where he said, pressing is like pregnancy. You're either pregnant or you're not. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You can't do a little bit of a press. You can't have 10 of your players pressing and one not. That's not pressing. It doesn't work. You have to have everyone pressing. And at times it was like some were, some weren't. It just seemed a bit of a mess. And I know it, you know, when a sub comes on, he's stretching the defense. Defenders are a little bit knackered. The pitch was a bit of a nightmare, especially in the modern era. So apparently from what the commentators are saying, it was very hot. So maybe the players were a little bit drained. That helps him. But you could see the difference straight away. And I get Harry Kane's just scored. I get he's like extending his record as England's top goal scorer to 65 goals, whatever it is, 64 goals. He's got a phenomenal record. But if you can see that something is working, then you change it. And I know this might sound insane, right? But in 1966, Jimmy Greaves was England's top goal scorer, right? He was the man. He was the one that was going to deliver us that trophy. He gets the knock. He has to miss a game. I think it was not Roger Hunt. Jeff Hurst comes in, and Jeff Hurst and Roger Hunt keep their place together. I think it might have been Roger Hunt actually took in, but Jimmy Greaves doesn't get back in the team because even though he's the best goal scorer, he's not the one for that system. He's not the one to fit in. I know we're going back 60 years and it's slightly ridiculous, but you get my point. Sometimes you got to do that. Going into the FA Cup final, like your man was saying there, I seen Wayne Ramsey. I've seen a lot of people predicting a lot of starting 11s. Not many people were predicting that he'd drop Rasmus Højlund, the top scorer for United. Yeah, he did. And sometimes you got to look at it and go, okay, what gives me the best chance of winning? Is it Ollie Watkins or is it Harry Kane? Harry Kane, phenomenal goal scorer, bags of experience, England icon because the top scorer and all the rest of it. Come very nearly close to winning a trophy for England as well. But for this tournament right now, who's the guy? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit torn with the whole Watkins thing because whilst he did play well tonight, it was 30 minutes where he did really well and it seemed to work. Is there a way to sort of say to Kane, maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call, the fact he got subbed? Maybe it's like, look, you know what? We need to change the system a little bit. The problem you've got, and you've said it before, is Southgate's not that guy, is he?
No, like, and the thing is, when you look at the Trent Alexander-Arnold decision that is persisting 2 games in the bounce of playing him in centre midfield, which is a bit of a risky move, and it's backfired on all quarters. I don't think anyone thinks it was a right thing to do. I like managers to gamble. I've wanted Southgate to be a little bit sort of, what's not pragmatic, the other way around. What's the other way around, Jay?
Sorry.
Not pragmatic. What's up?
You want Southgate?
It's too late.
Let's have a look. Do you know what? This is why we do it.
Like I've been up since like 4 o'clock this morning.
It's all right. We've got the power of the internet. What's a pragmatic antonym? Yeah, impractical, unrealistic, idealistic.
I don't know. Adventurous. Let's go for that. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Proactive. There you go. Thank you, William Morgan. Yeah. I'd like him to be proactive and take risks. Take risks on a centre forward when it's not working, because you can replace them like for like. But don't be putting a right back in centre midfield. That's like asking an air hostess to do the pilot's job. It's just pathetic.
It's a good analogy, that. Dominic Ginley in the Super Chat says, on the bus on the way to work in Brisbane, can't believe I woke up in the middle of the night to watch that shite. I feel for you, bro. I mean, it's bad enough. It's bad enough leaving work a bit early to watch it, let alone getting up in the middle of the night. In fact, let's get into some more chats because there's quite a lot of people chatting. I appreciate the fact that people are staying up late. Santa Notch says, that would be funny. Kane dropped from the team. England win the tournament. Kane finally bags a trophy without playing. That'd be ironic, wouldn't it? Still get a medal, wouldn't it? Rob Z666 says, I wish Mainoo stayed at home now. Seems like Southgate gave him a token place despite the great season he's had at United. I struggle to be objective with Kobbie Mainoo. Like, I get very angry and defensive around him, and I'm like, I get annoyed at little things that maybe I shouldn't get annoyed at, but I am really annoyed that so far the way he's been handled in this tournament, and I'll tell you what I'm on about. Given 4 minutes against Serbia, I thought was a joke. I thought he should have replaced Trent Alexander-Arnold much sooner, and I thought it was nonsense that Conor Gallagher got a nod ahead of him. Then he does the press conference. You're putting him up for press conference. Does he really need to do that? People go, okay, he handled it well. And he did, because he's a fantastically mature young lad. But did he need to do that? Does he need to be in front of the media asking questions about why he's not playing for Ghana? I don't think he does. I'll be honest with you. That's just me. And I'm a journalist. I'm someone who loves press conferences and sees the value in him. But I just think there's not better, but more experienced players to be putting in front of the cameras rather than someone who as well, you ain't going to give minutes to. Gareth Southgate knew that. He knew that kid. Yeah. And don't say it's not Gareth Southgate's decision who does press conferences. He has a say in it. He can say to the FA or the media team, let's not put him up. Or he can ask for someone else to step up. So I don't think that's particularly wise. And then tonight, to not give him any minutes at all, I'm sorry. I'm telling you now, right? Going back to the FA Cup final is a good example. If you put Trent Alexander-Arnold in that midfield for United in that FA Cup final, we lose to City. If you put Conor Gallagher in that FA Cup final against Manchester City, we lose to them instead of Kobbie Mainoo. We do. He's that good. Yeah. He's much better than them two in that role. He just is. Like,
when you watch... Go on.
I was just going to say, Conor Gallagher has been around for years and he's been a decent player. I think he was at West Brom, he was at Crystal Palace on loan, come back to Chelsea, very industrious, gets about the pitch a lot, always gives his all. I'm not trying to hate on him. He's not a bad footballer. But there was no way on God's earth you can tell me that when Conor Gallagher first emerged on the scene, people were talking about him the way they were talking about 18-year-old Kobbie Mainoo. They just weren't. And there's a reason behind that. Kobbie Mainoo is different. The kid played against Brazil, was it? Didn't give the ball away, got the nod against Belgium and was player of the match. It's just ridiculous. Like, he's I hate using this word because I think he gets overused, but he's a generational talent. And you've got him there in a position you need someone for, and you're not using him. To me, it's stupidity. It is. I'm sorry, it is.
Do you think it is stupidity, or do you think it's cowardice? Because if you look at if you look at Spain tonight, and is it Yamal and Williams? I think the two young kids. They've got a 16-year-old who was out on that pitch, nutmegging Italians and just having the time of his life, having the shackles off, and he was brilliant. And his manager's got faith in him to do so, despite his age. And it feels like with Southgate, with certain things like that, it's like his legacy now as an England manager, and probably as a football manager, is riding on this tournament because he doesn't get another gig after this, Southgate. So it just feels a little bit maybe cowardice to not actually trust. He'll trust him to go to a press conference, but he won't trust him in the center of the in the center of the field against Denmark. The horrible feeling I get now is that England aren't going to go all the way in this tournament. They just won't, because the level of opposition and the other teams that I've seen just far better than them. Is that Kobbie Mainoo gets his opportunity in a game that we lose? Do you know what I mean? Like there's either an injury or whatever, and he has to come on, and then it becomes yet again another United player that becomes the focal point as to England's downfall. And can we talk about pundits as well tonight? Because I don't know what you watched it on, Jay, but it was great. I've never seen Gary Lineker go in on a player the way he went in on Harry Kane in the post-match, and that was because Micah Richards actually posed the question to Gary, where it's usually Gary asking the rest of the team their opinion, and Gary was very animated. And then Shearer had a lot of opinions on Harry Kane and other players. Not one of them said anything about Gareth Southgate. But contrast that with the Ten Hag interview after he just won the FA Cup final. Why the press too scared to make judgments against Gareth Southgate? He's failed continuously, and he's been rewarded with more and more contracts and more time as an England manager. He's done the bare minimum. He's beat teams that he was supposed to beat. He's got beat by teams that managers take you over that line if you haven't got the talent to do. He's failed at every, and that England team picks itself. It has done for tournaments and tournaments, and now it's just showing that it's the end of days for Gareth Southgate. And in the situation of Kobbie Mainoo, it feels like it's the cowardice that he doesn't trust him to sort of fulfill whatever legacy Gareth Southgate's got left as England manager.
Yeah, there's loads of good points there. I'm going to get into some of what you just said there, and a couple of points I won't agree with. I'm just getting some of the chats as well. Triax says, I'm glad Mainoo isn't getting played, to be honest. Doesn't need the pressure of underperforming for England. Also, less chance to be injured if not playing. I understand that, but I think he'll want to play, and I think he can do that job. I do think he's good enough. Santa Knox says, still wasn't much of a lane at Southgate. Sorry, I've just lost it. But was the same with Roy, Capello, McLaren, Keegan, Sven, etc., etc. Jamie Commode says, old teammate Scotty, that's why they won't say anything about him. Joycey says, agree with Jay Mainoo, should make a big difference. Would make a big difference, should be playing. Ben disagrees, though. He says, you're acting like he's like leaving Xavi on the bench. He's leaving a player on the bench who's much better than the players he's got starting. It's just a fact. I'm sorry. It just is. I just can't get my head around the argument that Trent Alexander-Arnold or Conor Gallagher are better options in that midfield. They're just not. Going back to your point, Scotty, about Gareth Southgate and the lack of criticism he gets, I think there's a wariness with pundits of being too critical of the England manager in particular. I think in a tournament, I think there's some pundits and channels even that'll be like, we want access to this guy. We want to get behind. We want to be positive in a way as well and get behind him. And we want to be able to, if England do get far, get those interviews, get those comments, get that chat with him. Do we want to go in too hard? And he just goes, do you know what? I'm not doing any media with you guys or whatever. I know Gareth Southgate's not that guy, but I do think there's a wariness that comes with some people where it's just like, we're not going to go too hard on the manager. Where with Ten Hag, they won't care about that. They'll just, there's more attention and views for just laying into him than there is if you're nice to him. And there isn't really a reason to be nice to him other than maybe actually they're doing the right thing, which seems to be alien to a lot of pundits. So I think that might come into play as well. And I feel like with Southgate, other than maybe the Champs, isn't he like one of the longest serving international managers as well?
Yeah.
He's been around. He's out of the sort of the bigger teams. Forgive me if I'm wrong here, and by all means get involved in the comments to let me know. But of the teams that are all fancied, other than, like I say, there's Champs, I think you look at, is it Martinez at Portugal, your man's at Germany, who's not been there that long, has he?
No.
Who else is there? There's
De Fuentes, Spanish manager's not been there. I think he was at the World Cup, but that was.
Yeah, there's not many managers that have been around as long as Gareth Southgate at teams that are considered to being with a chance of winning it. So I just feel like the excuses are running thin. Can I ask you a question, Scotty?
Yep.
There's been this theory, right, that I think me and you've discussed this going back to the 2018 World Cup. And I always say this, I say this a lot. Luck in football is a thing. Right? People don't like to talk about luck. They hate it. They act like it's non-existent. But it happens. Like, you can have a bit of luck in football. A player that, does get injured costs you, or doesn't get injured, or a decision goes your way that could have gone either way, or, the ball hits the inside of the post and goes in rather than hitting the outside, whatever. Southgate in some of his runs, his tournament runs, has had easy runs through no design of his own. That World Cup run where you had Tunisia and Panama and he lost to Belgium in the group, and then you've got Colombia missing. I think James was missing. You do them on penalties. Then you've got a beatable Sweden team, and then you come up against Croatia, lose. The Euros is on home soil, and again, the run's quite easy. There's only Germany who weren't a very good Germany team until you get to the final and you get beat off Italy. The last World Cup, it was only France that offered a real test. You lost to them. My point is, has he just been lucky at Southgate with these runs, and has he sort of flattered to deceive a bit where he's got to a final, he's got to a semi, he's got to a quarter, but when you scratch beneath the surface, how many really good teams has this man beat?
Yeah,
or am I being harsh?
No, I don't think you're being harsh at all. I think he has flattered to deceive, and he can only play what's in front of him. But can you tell me honestly, out of all them games, I think a couple of them were high scoring, like where the football was flowing or where there was where the optimism came for? I think with the FA, first and foremost, before even any success as an England manager, is that they want a safe pair of hands. They don't want anyone, I don't know, like a Terry Venables or anything like a Sven-Goran Eriksson. They want a Mr. Nice guy, someone who's not going to have any sort of controversy around him. And that's what they've got with Gareth Southgate. Now he has reached the later stages of tournaments, but he hasn't done it on his merit. That's where I am with it. Do you know what I mean? It's not been managerial nous that's taken them to those stages. It's not been him tinkering. If anything, it's been his lack of managerial nous that stopped England winning against Italy in the Euros. If you go 1-0 up against Italy in the first 10 to 15 minutes, you don't all of a sudden start receding back into yourselves. You go at them again and again, and there was none of that. And like I said, it happened again tonight, and it was very close to happening against Serbia. And it's just, flattered to deceive. I just think he's been a failure. I mean, maybe it's me that I have higher standards, that you're a success if you win anything. You make a point there about Gareth Southgate's one of the longest running managers in international football, right? Where did Spain get to under, was it Luis Enrique was managing Spain at the last World Cup?
Yeah.
Spain went out at the same stage as England and they got rid of the manager. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like it happened, like any other, I say this about United quite a lot, is that any international team that has ambitions of winning trophies, if they don't get to the final, that's why Deschamps kept his job, because they got to the final against Argentina. Do you know what I mean? And they were unlucky and they lost on penalties. But if they're not winning it, their lifespan as international manager isn't very, very long.
No. It's a weird one with Southgate, because I think that I get your point. Like, I made it. Like, as he flatters at his team, I think it's difficult to sack someone when they've got to a final and a semi. I think the Nations League relegation, people sort of dismissed that, didn't they? Well, it's only the Nations League. Like, it's not a proper tournament. You know, it doesn't matter that much, all the rest of it. A quarter-final defeat to France, it doesn't feel like the end of the world because it's a good French team. Again, you know, they ended up losing the final to Argentina. But it's about that scratching beneath the surface and going, well, hang on a minute. If you look at those games, you look at that game against Croatia that me and you watched together, where we took the lead, the in-game management was poor. You look at that game against Italy that you mentioned, England should have gone 2-0 up. They should have killed that game off. Like, they had so many opportunities and they didn't. And it's like he panicked again and went, actually, let's stop doing what's working and let's just, sit back a bit. And against France, I will never get over that game as long as I live. The decisions against France, Raheem Sterling's not trained all week, so you give him half an hour. Bukayo Saka's absolutely destroying, I think, was it Hernandez? And you take him off. Marcus Rashford, who's your top scorer, you give him 5 minutes. It was insane. Every decision during that game was wrong. And I just could not get my head around it. It was like sabotage at one point. I think, is this guy actually trying to lose this game? So, and I know he wasn't, but that's what separates a good manager from a great one, or even an average manager from a very good one. Is in those moments, Roberto Mancini knew what to do to get Italy over the line. Those chumps knew what to do to get France over the line. Southgate didn't. I've got a super chat here before I come back to you from Patrick Walker. It says, I don't get why Trent is starting when he has no one on the field who makes runs behind. This game, he takes him off and puts on players who do make run behinds, and they don't have anyone who can make those passes. I mean, it is kind of a fair point, that, because the one thing you think about Trent is he can spray a ball out, he can pick out some passes. Maybe if you've got wingers that he can do that to, that might help him, or, forwards. But you took him off and you put Watkins on and you put Ise on, put Jared Bowen on. Maybe he could have found some of them, but he wasn't having a great game. So I wasn't against Trent Alexander-Arnold coming off. I was more annoyed at the fact that he was replaced by Conor Gallagher, who for me is just okay. It's just that's all I can say of him. Go through some more of the chats before I wrap up. Greg Foss says Southgate is great at creating an environment. I'd have took off Grealish just for squad morale, though. Southgate last tournament, always, certainly. Southgate probably came into the United interview with a rolled-up poster of Kalvin Phillips under his arm, pinned to the wall, and said, let's build it around this guy. Even that, though, even the whole atmosphere thing, a great environment, that's always been the sort of the praise or the one thing that people give credit for Gareth Southgate to. And to a certain degree, he deserves it because England was always a fragmented squad. Real Ferdinand said it, he used to sit with the United players, the Chelsea players would sit with each other, the Liverpool players would sit with each other because even though they knew each other since they were kids or they used to play together at times, when he was with Lampard at West Ham, whatever, there wasn't that environment at England. He sort of built that where everyone seems to get along and everyone's on the same page and there's this sort of, togetherness that's been lacking. But even that seems to have gone a little bit because, there was reports that a few players were questioning certain decisions he'd made in terms of leaving out members of the squad and bringing other members in. Someone like Harry Maguire, apparently, there's a few players that question that because he's a popular figure and it's like, well, okay, you say he's injured, but so's Luke Shaw, so's Lewis Dunk. And, Harry Maguire is someone who was injured in the last tournament and ended up being player of the tournament. In the team of the tournament. In the last Euros. So that one questioned a little bit. I don't quite feel there's this togetherness with this squad that there has been in the past. It doesn't feel like that to me. So maybe it's just maybe this is... I mean, I know this sounds like a mini meltdown after a draw against Denmark, but we've been seeing these performances for a little while now. And the two first performances from England have been poor. They got away with it against Serbia because they got a goal and Serbia didn't really create too much. Didn't get away with it against Denmark. And I actually thought Denmark, if they had a little bit more quality in certain areas, would have really punished England. So I'm not trying to be melodramatic after, 4 points from 2 games, which isn't even that bad. It's still top of the group. You've got to be honest about what you're seeing and what we've seen under Gareth Southgate. And I just think there's something lacking there. I just do.
Yeah, it certainly is. And after 8 years, that your biggest attribute to the squad is creating a good environment. You need more than that. Like, that's a scout leader's job. Get in and, bump your heads together and make up and sit around the table and have food and be friends. That's that, old hands and sing Kumbaya around the fire or whatever. Do all that. But you've got, you earn your, you earn your bread on the football pitch. And it's just lacking. And if Ineos in any way, shape or form actually considered that the man that was crying out for Kalvin Phillips or someone of his ilk in the team today should manage Manchester United, we are in for an absolute shitstorm. I'm very, very nervous if that's actually happened.
I've seen a lot of people, right? And I'm going to get in some of the comments before I let you go. And I just want to get one thing. If you're Kobbie Mainoo and you heard that comment, would you be upset?
Yes. I don't think he was. He doesn't come across as a sort of arrogance. If it was me at that age, I'd be like, "Fuck you, Gareth. I'm off. To Berlin on the piss. That's how I would be." But I think he's probably got a bit more temperament about him, Kobbie Mainoo, and I think because it's his first tournament, he wouldn't rock the boat. And if anything, maybe he uses it to, when he does get an opportunity, prove Gareth Southgate wrong. But yeah, of course you would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would be. I think that's a nonsense. I think it's an utterly nonsensical statement. I'm sorry. When I say it's nonsense, I cannot get my head around any aspects of it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
It's not just Kobbie Mainoo, though, is it? I mean, you're talking about it not being a harmonious squad. What does that say to the rest of the team? That somebody that hasn't played really for 2 years for England and is Cole Palmer there, Conor Gallagher, Kobbie Mainoo, other midfielders. Are you telling me that we can't do the same job as Kalvin Harris? Kalvin Harris will probably do as good a job as Kalvin Phillips. Kalvin Phillips, the last time I heard his name was when West Ham were beating Newcastle by 3-1. He came on for 20 minutes and Newcastle won the game 4-3, right? David Moyes famously last year subbed Kalvin Phillips after 45 minutes against Burnley because they were losing 2-0. That Kalvin Phillips, yes, I'd be fuming if I was anyone in the England squad. And this isn't I'm not dissing Kalvin Phillips, but he's not there for a reason. And he could have took him. He was fit.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
You took Luke Shaw.
He took Lewis Dunk. He wasn't fit. Triac says, in defence of Southgate, we were the better team against France. Not sure we could have done Argentina, though, either way. But France got lucky against us. I think tactics let us down. You cannot tell me that he should have took Bukayo Saka off. You cannot tell me that he should have only given Marcus 5 minutes. You cannot tell me that Raheem Sterling, who not trained all week, his house had been burgled, should have been given minutes ahead of some of them other players. It made zero sense. It's poor tactics, man. And when you get to the last stages of a World Cup, those are the defining moments. Those are what separates the successful teams from the non-successful ones. It's fine margins. You can't afford to make mistakes against a France team. You can't afford to do that. You're not playing, no disrespect, but the Faroe Islands or something like that. This is a team that will punish you if you're not at the top of your game. And if you've got a manager who's making 3 bad decisions, almost any one of those decisions on its own will be fatal, but all 3 of them, you've got no chance. So I'm sorry, I don't quite buy it. Just one final one, Scotty. Give us your 11 for the Slovenia game.
I'd go Pickford, Walker, probably the same back 4, to be honest, that started tonight. Yeah. I'll go Saka, Rice, Mainoo, Foden, Bellingham, and then I go Watkins.
Yeah,
that's 11.
Dropping Kane. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. We're through. We're playing Slovenia. This, then you start gambling and bringing players in to try and experiment in the game where you're already through.
Well, England aren't necessarily through. Oh, are we?
Pretty much, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you're right. 4 points is enough. Sorry, ignore me. I'm talking rubbish. Yeah, 4 points is enough. You're right. It's because it's like even third you can go through, can't you? No, I hear you. I think if Shaw's fit, he comes back in. I don't know if he is. For Trippier, just a straight swap. 100% Kobbie Mainoo starts for me. And I don't know, you know what? Fuck it, yeah. I'm with you on the Watkins bus.
Yeah.
Get some pace up there. Give him a chance. Let's bring a bit of energy in Mainoo and Watkins together into the team to inject a little bit of something. But I'd also, I know it's not an 11, but I'd keep the rest the same, but I'd like to see Palmer given a chance. I think if it's not happening with Bellingham and Foden, one or the other, then take one of them off and get Cole Palmer on there and give him an opportunity. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. It's been a really good chat. A few people have said, thanks for doing this, a late night one. Yeah, me and Scotty have been debating all afternoon. Should we do one? And we thought, sack it. We'll jump on a late one and just have a little bit of a chat and a rant. We'll be back on. In fact, we've got what's the video we did the other day? Can't remember what we did.
We did a video on footballers' tweets. X-rated footballers.
Oh, mate. Yes, X-rated footballers' tweets. So we'll put that out tomorrow.
It was my idea, and I think it's very good.
Also, if you're not done so already, check out our Patreon. Give us a bit of support on Patreon if you can do. There's a link in the chat. We do appreciate times are hard, but it does help us keep going and keep doing this stuff because obviously we're using the studio now and stuff. I don't need to bore you with the details, but yeah, we appreciate your support. Thank you, everyone that got involved with the chat. Don't forget, just before you go, hit that like button as well. Give us a like. That's been Scotty. I've been Motty. This has been a little bit of a late night review of England's 1-1 draw with Denmark. Bring on Slovenia. Thanks for watching.